Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Assembly of First Nations National Chief Roseanne Archibald says the suspension she has been placed under is unlawful. She threatened the AFN with legal action if they did not meet a series of demands. The move comes after the AFN said the National Chief was suspended pending an investigation and that she would not be allowed to attend next month's annual General Assembly. Archibald says her purported suspension and denial of entry to next month's Chiefs Assembly is, quote, a means to intimidate, punish, and silence her to avoid any discussion on the potential misuse of public funds by the AFN. Archibald gave the AFN until noon today to confirm, among other things, that the suspension was done without proper authority and that she be free to resume her normal duties immediately, including attending the AGA. Archibald later tweeted that she received a preliminary reply from AFN lawyers before the deadline. The AFN has not responded to requests for comment. Joining us now to speak more about what's going on with the AFN is former AFN Regional Chief for Manitoba, Kevin Hart, and Russ Daibo, a longtime critic of the AFN, who also ran for National Chief in 2018. Gentlemen, thanks both of you for being with us here. First off, I'd like to get your take on the attempted suspension of AFN National Chief Roseanne Archibald and the plan to bar her from attending the upcoming annual General Assembly in Vancouver. Kevin, let's start with you.
I think right now we have a current situation where we have a national chief that's not in the office. There's so many issues that are affecting First Nation communities right now that have not been addressed, resolved, or spoken to by the national office, and this has been neglected to this fiasco that we see before us right now. The national office has been silent. It has not really been a voice without a plan to address anything critical that has happened in this past year for us as First Nations people. The result is that we see right now over 10,000 unmarked graves across Canada with no voice. We have a papal apology coming forward where there is a lot of mixed reaction and emotions from survivors across this country. We have climate change in the environment affecting us, the high gas prices that are only going to impact us as the most marginalized people in this country as First Nations due to the food insecurity and the high cost in the north and on First Nations across this country. So what we're seeing right now is that we have a national chief, but under the current leadership, we have no leadership.
Russ, what are your thoughts? The National Chief says that the executive doesn't have, the authority to suspend her, but what are your thoughts on this suspension and an attempt to bar her from attending the upcoming AGA?
Well, first, let me say that, since 2015, the Assembly of First Nations has been increasingly a tool of the federal government in terms of policy and legislative development. They've signed memorandums of understanding on a new fiscal relationship and on joint priorities. And so the current national chief has inherited, 8 years of what the previous national chief did with the organization to turn it into basically a branch office of the federal government. I think it would be pretty hard for her to single-handedly turn that around. But in terms of the executive committee suspending her and forbidding her to speak at the assembly, I think she's they have definitely overreached their authority. The AFN charter is subject to interpretation, but she's an elected official. And for, the executive, regardless of what she said that they don't like, for them to suspend her, it's the first time in the history of AFN that they've done that to the first female national chief. And ultimately, it's the chiefs in assembly who are in charge of the executive committee and in charge of the national chief. And to forbid her from going to state her case there to the assembly is, I think, very unfair. And I understand right now regional chiefs are meeting today with their chiefs in different regions to decide if it's going to be business as usual or if they're going to delay the assembly, which of course will have economic and political consequences if they do that.
I have reached out to the AFN, still haven't heard back on whether there is a possible delay or cancellation of the AGA coming. Russ, you know, the budget of the AFN has basically quadrupled since Trudeau took office. Archibald's calling for a forensic audit of the Assembly of First Nations. Do you think that is necessary?
I think that's a good idea. I mean, you know, the relationship between AFN and the federal government, like I said, has been very cozy. Even when I ran for national chief, I was pointing that out.
If we have people that are bringing forward claims of bullying, intimidation, and harassment, then yes, we as an executive have to take that seriously as well too. And it has to be investigated, it has to be vetted out, and those reports need to be shared with the chiefs and the chiefs in assembly so that all the information could be there and that everybody can come to a conclusion from there, and then we work on a path moving forward.
Gentlemen, we're very much over time here. Just very quickly, Russ, starting with you, how do you see this playing out with the national chief?
Well, you know, I think that the chiefs in assembly, if that Vancouver meeting goes ahead, I think they need to address this. The problem is the bodies of AFN haven't followed the charter. The Confederacy of Nations hasn't met in years. And in fact, the first resolution that was to be dealt with in Vancouver was to amend the charter to remove that body from the charter. And it was supposed to, the charter was in place to, you know, ensure transparency and accountability of the AFN executive and national chief. But once you get rid of that body, it's only every 6 months that there's an assembly or special assembly. So really it rests with the chiefs in assembly to figure out if they're going to do an oversight committee or how they're going to manage this.
Kevin, very quickly, what do you see as happening here in the weeks ahead?
The weeks ahead, I believe that under the guidance, direction of, again, as Russ has indicated, our regional chiefs are meeting across the country with their respected chiefs. They get direction from their chiefs in assembly from their respected regions as well too. And then moving forward, if we do come to meet in Vancouver, then we will be on the floor and we'll watch how the chiefs work to move forward, because like I said again, we have a national office right now that doesn't have a voice. There's so many critical issues right now that are affecting our people, and it has no leadership there at the present moment. So we need to ensure that this is dealt with by the chiefs in the assembly and that we get clear direction moving forward.
Kevin, Russ, we'll have to leave it there, but hopefully we'll be gathering again to speak about this. Appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
Take care.
And you can watch the extended 11-minute long discussion with Russ Dibo and Kevin Hart over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Of course, there are plenty of opinions on this situation. Loa Beebe is a speaker, writer, and consultant from the Pequotty Nation. Daryl Stranger caught up with her at the Matriarch Summit in Winnipeg. She says the treatment against Archibald is biased.
It's unfortunate that our first woman national chief is actually the treatment that is happening, I think, is biased. And I wonder in the same role, if it was a man, if that they would get the same treatment as a national chief that's a female. So I see those biases playing out. I also see extreme measures that are being taken, and I really think that's not how we, as First Nations people, Indigenous people, that's not how we settle things. We don't pick a colonial stance and take that stance. But that's the road that they seem to have taken. And I hope and I'm praying for all sides. And I'm hoping there could be a resolution that's going to take place.
To Thunder Bay now, where there is some big news breaking. The police chief, Sylvie Hoth, is facing 3 allegations of misconduct under the Ontario Police Services Act. The notice of hearing into Hoth's conduct was published late this afternoon by the Ontario Civilian Police Commission. It lays out 3 counts of alleged misconduct after an investigation, according to a notice of particulars. The allegations include not immediately transferring or terminating a criminal investigation into board chair Georgianne Morso. She's also alleged to have deceived or attempted to deceive police board members in 2 other counts. Hart had announced this morning in a media statement that she will be retiring next June. We reached out to Hart via the Thunder Bay Police email but have not heard back. You can read much more on what's been unfolding in Thunder Bay with the police service and its board over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Well, more than 2 months after he disappeared, Frank Young's home community in northeastern Saskatchewan says it's not giving up. A walk was held in Red Earth Cree Nation yesterday to show the 5-year-old all the ways to come home. Young disappeared from his home on April 19th. Officials say they're facing dwindling resources and searchers are exhausted and equipment is breaking down. But Chief Fabian Head says firefighters and volunteers remain committed. Searchers are currently focusing on a part of the current river referred to as the Y.
This focus is a result of spiritual knowledge keepers for the area to be searched again. The Y is approximately 5 to 8 kilometers downstream from the community. With that being said, we have covered approximately 92 square kilometers with 611 searchers, 490 GPS search tracks.
The Vatican has laid out the Pope's schedule for his planned visit to Canada. Details on that and more coming up after the break.
Welcome back. Well, it's official. The Pope's itinerary was released today. Despite rumors of ill health and retirement, the Pope will be coming to Canada in July. Pope Francis will visit Canada from July 24th to the 29th, with stops in Edmonton, Musqueam, Quebec City, and Iqaluit. This is part of the promise he made in Rome, the visit to Indigenous communities on Canadian soil. It is his first visit to Canada and the first papal visit since 2002. Current session of Parliament wrapped up on Thursday, and the Trudeau government tabled one last piece of legislation before rising for the summer. It's a bill to create a body that will monitor progress on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action. APTN's Fraser Needham has more.
It's called the National Council for Reconciliation, and it builds upon calls to action 53 to 56. It will be an Indigenous-led body that will report on where the government and other organizations are in meeting the TRC's 94 calls to action. Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Mark Miller says the government needs such a body to assess where it is succeeding and failing on reconciliation.
It's obvious that Canada shouldn't be in a position of grading itself for assessing how it's doing, and this is a commission that will have that independence headed up by a group of well-accomplished Indigenous people with the opportunity of national Indigenous organizations to each propose one member and really continue to hold Canada to account on a number of the Truth and Reconciliation calls.
Miller says the council will help the government build trust with Indigenous people and organizations.
This is a mechanism where people can look to it and see it as impartial, led by Indigenous groups. We stand in places that have a heavy colonial construct to them, and I think Indigenous groups look with healthy skepticism and mistrust upon places like this, and so this institution is not only a transparency and accountability mechanism, but a trust-building mechanism by people who aren't beholden to the comings and goings of the Senate and the House of Commons.
Miller says the government hopes to have Bill C-29 passed sometime this coming fall, when the House of Commons resumes. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
In northern BC, Lheidli First Nation made a public declaration on Indigenous Peoples Day that they are the rights and title holders of their territory. They say any resource projects by the federal and provincial governments must have their consent before they can proceed. APTN's Lee Wilson reports.
At a press conference, Lheidli First Nation declared that they've never ceded their territory through treaty or war, which is located in Prince George and surrounding areas. Then they shared messages for the BC and federal governments, affirming who they are.
We are Lheidli people. We are of Dead origin from the confluence of the two rivers, the Nechako River, meaning with strong undercurrents, and the Fletako, Fraser River, meaning Big Mouth River. We are the sovereign inhabitants and the traditional owners and occupiers and users of our vast unceded territories and resources.
The nation says they've been working on this declaration with their legal team for 5 years. They hope to build a brighter future for their members, one where any extraction of resources from its territory does not happen without their free, prior, and informed consent.
Lheidli are entering a new period of relationship building with the province of BC and the federal government of Canada. It is important that they know where the Lheidli First Nation stands on the issue of land ownership, title, and rights.
We contacted both federal and provincial governments for a comment, but did not receive a response before airtime. Chief Darlene Logan says they have a great relationship with the regional government in Prince George. And this declaration is about moving forward with government, industry, and businesses. She hopes other First Nations across Canada make their own declarations.
You don't need a treaty to do this. This is us saying we said no to the treaty twice. Now this is time for the government to take action and that this is our territory.
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Prince George.
Time for another quick break. Coming up, a movie about stopping an alien invasion is the talk of the film festival circuit, thanks to the youth of Pangertung who wrote, acted, and directed it.
It's important to see ourselves in movies and comic books and representations of us kicking butt and having fun.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Regular contributor Greg Scriver was in Winnipeg this past weekend and took in the Indigenous Day live performances at the Forks. Greg, you should have let us know you were in the city. You could have popped by. He took this image of the setting as seen behind the stage, with the Human Rights Museum also in the background. You can send your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 25 with showers in St. John's, rain and 21 in Charlottetown, showers and 20 for Kuujjuaq and Nain. 27 with showers in Montreal, rain and 25 in Val-d'Or, sunny and 26 in Sault Ste. Marie, showers and 26 for North Bay, 23 and cloudy in Thunder Bay, 1 degree cooler in Sioux Lookout. 18 with rain for God's Lake, Thompson, and Churchill. 29 in Winnipeg, 23 with showers in Dauphin. 24 in Regina, 17 and cloudy in Saskatoon. 11 with showers for Meadow Lake, 15 and rain for La Ronge. Over in northern Alberta, 21 in Fort McMurray, 20 for Grand Prairie. Showers and 18 in Edmonton, 11 with rain in Lethbridge. 22 with the sun out in Vancouver and Victoria. 21 and sunny in Prince George, 22 for Smithers. 19 in Old Crow, rain, and 21 in Whitehorse. 24 for Yellowknife, 29 and sunny in Fort Simpson. 12 in Sax Harbor, rain, and 14 for Paulituck. 16 in Baker Lake, sunny, and 11 in Cambridge Bay. 6 in Resolute, 7 in Igloolik. Slashback is an Inuit film made in Nunavut
and it hits wide release in Canada on Friday. It's getting rave reviews on the film festival circuit and is unlike anything that has come before it in Nunavut. Our Kent Driscoll talked with the director and co-writer Nyla Anuksuk and found out why you don't mess with the girls from Pang.
This is Panictone, Nunavut, located on the eastern shore of Baffin Island and home to almost 1,500 people. It's one of Nunavut's most stunning communities, hands down. Pang is also the setting and the heart of Slashback, a sci-fi horror buddy film where 4 best friends and the cutest boy in Pang have to work together to stop an alien invasion. Making a full feature film in a remote northern community is just like trying to mount any large project in a small Nunavut community. For one, where were the 60-person crew going to live in a town short on housing and hotel rooms? You rent out the 2 schools.
And we basically asked if it would be possible for our crew to move in for the summer. And we ended up shipping up about 60 beds and mattresses and turning all of the classrooms into bedrooms, makeshift bedrooms for our crew and cast. And so they were living essentially with a roommate, 2 people per classroom.
The fictional Pang resonates as the real Pang. The small details are there for any Nunavummiut to notice. That took attention to detail.
If we needed to make new curtains, we were buying the material from the co-op with the fabric that they had there. The girls, and same with wardrobe as well. If they needed sneakers, we were getting them, the sneakers that they would get at the co-op. The bikes. At one point, there's a pile of bikes, and I was a little worried. It's like, all the kids have the same bikes. But it also is true that in town, all the teenagers have the same bike, and they just have to put their initials on it because that's the bike that's for sale at the co-op. So it's okay that all the kids have the same bike.
The 4 young actresses at the core of the story show how small communities forge close friendships.
I think that when you're that age, you're trying to figure out who you are and where you fit in, and your friends are a big part of that.
Slashback is rare for Inuit film. It isn't a serious documentary or a look at Inuit in history. It is a contemporary adventure. Anuksuk values those other films, so much so that she questioned herself.
And I kind of was like, oh, should I be doing that kind of work? And is this somehow less important? And I think that, it is different, but also it's important to see ourselves in movies and comic books and representations of us kicking butt and having fun.
No spoilers, but we can confirm butt is kicked and fun is had. Slashback hits theaters and digital this Friday, Canada-wide.
Let's go hunting.
Kent Driscoll, APTN National News.
I love it.
Those polar bear scenes look wild. Been hearing about Slashback for months. I hope it does bigger business than Top Gun Maverick. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Thursday. For much more, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night.
Yes,